Hi, Bill Powers here, and thank you for joining me again. Got a little bit of a frog in the throat, so I appreciate your patience. I'm trying to put together a series of videos, and this is the second in that series, having to do with some of the less emotional aspects of voting. And so let's look today at the form of government. There is a 10-minute video. I'm going to post a link down in the comments section, and I would like for you to watch that after you get done with this one. But it explains the various forms of government, how they operate, and why we have to have the one that we do. But what we've also got is we have a modified form of that form of government, and that modification is it becomes a representative form of government. I can't go to Washington and cast my vote every time that a vote comes up. I can't go to the capital city of my state and vote every time that a vote comes up. I can't run to my county seat or to my local governments and vote on all the issues. I can't. I'm busy. I'm doing other things. And I'm supposed to be doing that. That's what makes America work. But at the same time, we have to have somebody. And so what we do is we have a representative. And a representative takes my vote and goes and casts it in the Capitol building, over here in my state capitol, or in the local governments. A representative casts my vote for me. That's what they do. So what I'm doing is I'm hiring a representative to cast my vote. Now, how do I want them to cast my vote? Well, how I want them to cast my vote is similar to the way I think. My value system, the things that I believe in. Should the government be larger or smaller? Or should it stay the same? Should the taxes be higher or lower? Or stay the same? How about freedom of speech? Freedom of religion? Abortion? Gun rights? All these other issues that come up, these are the things that I have opinions on. Everybody has opinions on those. I want a representative who will cast their vote on those issues the way I would if I were there. That's what I'm choosing a representative for. Second thought that I want to give you today has to do with teams. I have a nephew who is an avid football fan for a particular team. I am not. I root for a different team. And we jab each other back and forth, and it's fun. It really is fun. But in voting, we are on the American team. We want our team to win. I don't want my political team to beat your political team. I want America to be the best that it can be. So in football, baseball, hockey, other sports, yes, teams are fun. But in politics, looking for a particular letter at the end of a name can get in the way of us choosing the person who will actually cast their vote the way we would if we were there. So that's something we want to watch for. In an article that I wrote along this line, I had two more points, and I'm going to kind of combine them in this video. And that is this. The best is the enemy of the good. If I'm looking for somebody who agrees with everything I believe in 100%, I might miss somebody who is really pretty good, who agrees with me maybe 70% of the time. That's something we want to guard against, because sometimes insisting that somebody has to be completely like we are causes us to miss people who will do a good job and vote with us the same way we would vote if we were there most of the time. The fourth point that I put on my written article that I wrote about this is similar, and that is the idea between primaries and the general election. And that is this. We have primaries so that we can make our statements. This is what I believe. This is what I want my representative to do. These are the things, the values that I hold. That's what primaries are for. When it comes to the general election, there's a trap. And let me tell you what that trap is. I'll use the presidential election as an example, but this is the same with any other election too. If you have 3 people running, don't forget that you have to have a larger amount than everybody else. If you have 2 people running, You have to win a majority, 270 electoral votes. That's what you have to have with two people. With a third person entering in, that third person has to get 34%. 34% of the electoral votes. Now, I don't believe that it has ever happened that a third-party candidate has ever gotten one electoral vote. I could be wrong on that, but I don't believe that they have ever won one state. If you can't win a state, then you can't win the election. And you have to win the election by 34%. 34% is what you're going to have to win the election by in a three-party race. The problem that you have with that is if I agree with this person 95% of the time, this person 70% of the time, and this person 10% of the time, if I cast a vote here at 95%, then that takes away a vote from this person who I agree with 70% of the time. If I take a vote away from 70%, it is the same power as a vote for 10%. So a vote here, unless I know I can win, puts this person into power. Or at least is a vote for that person. Is that what I want to do? Those four things are generally applicable to all of us. We're hiring a representative. Doing so on a team basis probably is not a very good idea. Best is the enemy of the good, and also the idea that the primaries give us a lot more flexibility as to who we want to express our views. But at the general election, we usually have to choose from between two people. And those two people are the ones that we're going to have to decide who is going to lead in that particular office. But there's a fifth point I want to point out, and that has to do with Christians. I'm a Christian. And so I would like to speak to my fellow Christians now and comment on this. Some say, well, politics is dirty business, and I think that Christians ought to stay out of it. I've heard that. But here's the command from God. We're to render to Caesar that belongs to Caesar. Yes, Caesar wants our taxes. Yes, Caesar wants us to obey the laws. But there's more. The particular Caesar that we have in the United States is a Caesar that says, tell me who you want Caesar to be. So in order to obey God, we have to answer that question. Who do you want Caesar to be? That's a question we have to answer. And it's a question that God calls us to. Second, don't forget we are told to be salt and light in our world. Choosing leaders is part of that influence that we have, the matter of being salt and light. Let me give you an example. People complain quite often about Hollywood and how Hollywood has a broken moral compass. Well, that may be the case, but here's the question. Who is supposed to be Hollywood's moral compass? It was us. We were to have an influence over Hollywood, and we abandoned that role and said movies are no good. Now, maybe not we, but people in earlier days said movies are never any good. We abandoned Hollywood, and Hollywood became what it is. Do we want to do the same to our country? And I don't think that the answer to that question is yes. We don't want to do the same thing to the country. We want to have an impact on the country. We want to be salt and light in this country. Are we always going to have Christians for our leaders? No. But what we want is people who have similar values to us, whether they're Christians or not, whether they're believers or not. We want to have people who have similar values to us. Don't forget now, the Samaritan came along after two others had come along. A man had been beaten and robbed and left in the street. One person came and just kind of walked around. It's none of my business. Another person came along, walked around. None of my business. The Samaritan was a despised person. But yet he came and he helped. He influenced his culture. We are to be an influence in our culture. We are to help our culture be the best that it can be. That's part of our job. That's part of being salt and light in this world. is to have an influence, a Christian influence, on the culture in which we find ourselves. Let's be that salt and light. And all of us, let's vote wisely. That's my thought for today. I'm Bill Powers. Thanks for joining me.